Hi, my name is Jessie, and we're going to be testing Jack's aerobic capacity using the Handstand Cycloergometer test. So it's just a test to test your endurance, and it's going to make it so you don't have to work as hard as you possibly can.
Okay.
So this test requires a 2 to 3 minute warm-up, 6 minutes worth of testing, and a 3 to 5 minute cool down. During the actual testing time, I'll be taking his heart rate, blood pressure, and RPE at 2 through 3 minutes and 5 through 6 minutes. This is to make sure that he's in the submax range of 60 through 85% of his max heart rate, and to make sure that his blood pressure is changing accordingly. Jack is 23 years old, and he plays soccer 2 to 3 times per week, and he also runs twice per week. Because of this, because of his high level of physical activity, I'm going to be testing him at 150 watts on the bike while he maintains 50 revolutions per minute. He has no known cardiovascular risk factors and no signs, symptoms, or known metabolic, renal, or cardiovascular diseases. Because of this, we did not have to get a physician's referral before beginning this test. Also, Jack is currently doing his warm-up, but before he started that, we took his resting blood pressure, which was 108/80, and his resting heart rate, which was 60. Using his age, we calculated his max heart rate to be 192 beats per minute, so that puts his submax range at 115 through 163 beats per minute. So he's now finished with his warm-up, so I'm going to go ahead and raise it to 150, and he started. So he's now in the testing phase. While we wait for him to get that 2-minute mark, I'm just going to explain a couple more things. So in taking his heart rate, I'm only going to be taking him for 15 seconds instead of a full minute. So I divided his submax range by 4, and this is so that I don't have to do math during the test, and so that I still know he's in that range. So his new range is 29 through 41 beats. While taking his blood pressure, I'm just going to make sure that his diastolic does not fluctuate up or down more than 10 millimeters of mercury, and that his systolic is higher than his resting due to his increased intensity of activity. Also, because his systolic blood pressure was between 100 and 200, and that his diastolic was below 110, this gave us no indication to not begin the test. And lastly, before he got on, we made sure that the seat of the bike was at the same level of his greater trochanter when standing next to it, and that when he's pedaling and his leg is straightening, that it bends at least 5 through 10 degrees. So for his warm-up, we had him pedaling at 50 RPMs, and he was only working at 50 watts, so it was a lot less than his actual testing intensity. And at the 2 through 3 and 5 through 6 minute mark, I'm going to be taking his heart rate twice at each interval. And this is to make sure that his heart rate is within 5 beats of each other. And this means that he's in a steady state. But since I divided that range by 4, he has to be within 1 beat of each other to make sure he's in that submax range. And he is at that 2-minute mark, so I'm going to go ahead and start with his heart rate. I'm just going to be using the clock on the bike itself. Okay. So you got 31 beats, so you are in that submax range, so we're good so far. All right. Go ahead and take his blood pressure. Go ahead and put your arm up on his shoulder. Good. So you got 118/82, which is good because that first number rose and that second number didn't. And then I'll be taking your heart rate one more time. he got 32 that time, so they were within 1 beat of each other. And then this is an RPE scale, so you can pick a number based on how you feel.
9.
9, good. So this tells us that he's not overexerting himself since this is a submax test. So we still have a little while, so I'll go ahead and keep explaining. So I will be using his last taken heart rate and the rate at which he's working in order to calculate his predicted VO2 max, since we are actually running a VO2 max test. Also, during his cool down, it will be an active cool down of 3 to 5 minutes, and I will be taking his heart rate and blood pressure every 2 to 3 minutes to make sure that his heart rate and his systolic blood pressure are decreasing, and that is due to the decreased intensity of activity that he will be doing. So we have a few more seconds. Also, reasons to terminate this test is if his systolic blood pressure went above 200, if his diastolic fluctuated more than 10 up or down, if his heart rate was outside of the submax range, or if he felt pain in any way or requested himself to stop. So we're at that 5-minute mark, so I'll go ahead. Good. 32, so we're still in that submax range. I'm going to put your arm up on my shoulder. Good. That time you got 122 over 81. So that is good as well. Let me take your heart rate one more time. Good. So that time you got 33, so they were within 1 beat. And then one more time for the scale.
9 again.
Good. So still not overexerting himself. So because his heart rate were within 1 beat of each other during both measurements, he was in steady state. So he's actually beginning his cool down now. Also, we knew that he was in steady state because his blood pressure between the two remained relatively the same, which means that they didn't increase, and that's good because he didn't increase intensity during the testing time. And same with his heart rate. All 4 measurements were relatively the same. So that's also good due to a lack of increased intensity. So yeah, we're just gonna finish his cool down, and I will take his heart rate and blood pressure during that time. And that is it. Thank you.